Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers. Packers get the win 35-25. The Aaron Rodgers revenge game against the Packers. Packers move to 5-1-1. Steelers fall to 4-3.
Yeah. And we had been focusing on heading into this game. Rodgers could become the fourth quarterback of all time to beat all 32 NFL teams. You know who the other three are?
Brady, Peyton, and Favre.
No. So it's maybe he was. Then it's five. Drew Brees is the last one I was thinking of. I think you're right, though. Favre did, too.
And
so
Drew
fifth.
Brees?
Two other quarterbacks beat all teams that were in existence at their times, but it wasn't 32, obviously.
Joe Montana.
Yep.
And you tell me, like I should know.
You should.
It would have to be
Trivia with Steve.
Someone that played for multiple teams. What time frame? Warren Moon.
No. Predates all the ones we've talked about so far.
Jake the Snake.
No. Fran Tarkenton.
Fran Tarkenton, sorry.
That's the other one.
Sorry.
So we were focusing on that Rodgers with a win could become the latest quarterback to beat all the other teams.
No, Aaron Rodgers still has never beaten the Green Bay Packers.
But critically, he's also quite close to the record for losing to all the teams.
Oh, really?
Apparently, Derek Carr, I think it's Derek Carr, has the record for having lost to 29 NFL teams. This is all in a tweet.
Is Derek officially a teammate yet? I just want to be careful.
I know. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, look, sometimes you lose some games.
Derek Carr is really good, but also has some incredible, most losses through 6 seasons, 7 seasons, 8 seasons, 9 seasons. He's a good quarterback.
Correct. He has quite a lot of records for losses, which I think is just indicative of how long the man played the game.
Blocked on Twitter again.
I'm trying to find this tweet, but it was a Josh Dubois tweet who was saying that I think Derek Carr. Here you go. Aaron Rodgers has now lost to 29 teams as a starter, 2 shy of the record held by Derek Carr. So Derek Carr lost to almost all 32 teams.
Who else does Rodgers need?
Carr, Flacco, and Russell Wilson share that record. The only teams that have not beaten Rodgers since he started. No. The Browns. The Browns are 0-4 against Rodgers.
They got him twice.
The Raiders are 0-3 against Rodgers, and the Ravens are 0-3 against Rodgers.
Oh, he's got the Ravens.
So he plays
and the
2 of the 3 teams that that have never beaten him left this season.
Record.
So in this focus of completing the set, we were looking at it from the wrong direction.
Some fun stories in this game, generally.
Can we just start with how disgusting those Steelers throwbacks jerseys are?
Yes.
Every throwback in the NFL at the moment is awesome. It's, in fact, better than the regular jersey, right? The creamsicles, the Seahawks thing is beautiful. When the Vikings go throwback, who else has been throwbacks recently that are really, really good? The Eagles throwbacks, Kelly Green is better than the sludge that they normally wear. Yeah. Every throwback is better. Unfortunately for the Steelers, they've worn basically the same uniform for almost the entirety of their history. So in order to throw back, you have to throw it to the Great Depression when people were just putting on whatever they could dye with, things that happened to be around the house, right? Like, here's some cotton, let's just lob some yellow on it and maybe throw some stripes in it and that'll be it.
Looked like caution tape.
Right. You can't throw back anymore. I'm sorry, but all of your throwbacks are things that should be left in the 1930s. You have it's a weird quirk of history where you just happen to have found a good-looking uniform and you've stuck with that for 80 years, right? That just means you can't throw back. Yeah. Leave that to other people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the other Packers throwbacks that they used.
The Packers are similar.
Yeah,
they've worn
here's
the same
navy and brown.
Right. You have worn effectively the same uniform for the majority of history. And in order to get to a throwback, you need to get to a period where things looked ridiculous. So stop doing that.
Here's some caution tape. Put it on. Steelers. They looked like they were ready. Look at these things. They looked like they were ready to run the wing tee and run the ball 75 times.
And it's not like,
maybe they should have.
Remember, was it Philadelphia that had maybe the worst throwbacks of all time? Those weird yellow,
all the different colors,
yellow and teal or whatever it was. Horrible. But they at least have good uniforms. They just found the worst thing they've ever had and put that out there. Every Steelers throwback is terrible. Whatever it is, every single throwback at that point is awful. So just just stop doing it.
So, yeah, that was a bad start for Pittsburgh. So, early on, good competitive game. It was 16-7 Steelers at the half, by the way. 3 field goals on their first 3 drives, Pittsburgh, or 3. They had 3 field goals early. Was it all 3 drives? No. 3 out of the first 4 drives. Doesn't matter. 9-7. Score a touchdown before the half to go 16-7. They've done a nice job, the Steelers, with DK Metcalf in the red zone. I think they've used DK really well in recent weeks, in the red zone at least. Here's slant and fades. Good luck. Go ahead, try to stop it. So they're up 16-7, and then the Packers just get hot in the second half. Jordan Love, at one point, completed 20 straight passes. He goes 29 of 37 for 360. Something like 70% of his yards came after the catch, though. I mean, not though, but Tucker Kraft was outstanding on National Tight Ends Day.
Tucker Kraft looked like the best tight end in NFL history in this game. The dude was just an absolute monster. Yards after the catch, like early in the game where they gave him like a relatively short thing and he just goes beast mode, that looked like Gronk. Later in the game, Love had one of those weird games where he threw a bunch of passes that were very sort of unconventional ball flights, shall we put it, right? Normally, most NFL throws are, within a range of velocity. He had a couple where he just sort of lofted it up there. And they ended up getting caught by his receivers. And it's always very difficult, I think, to say, well, how much of that is like perfect quarterback throw judgment? And how much of that is he just kind of put it up there and gave a guy a chance and the guy made the play and he looks great. Like the one where he threw up an absolute duck under pressure and Tucker Kraft just kind of tossed the guy to the side. Deshaun Elliott, I think, who then like steps off because he didn't want to get done for pass interference.
For 59 yards.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Tucker Kraft catches it. And because Elliott has been like, oh, I didn't touch him, he's not close enough to tackle him. And Kraft sets off rumbling again. And I'm very reluctant to call that a good play by Jordan Love.
And that was right after, and there were 2 blatant officiating misses here. That was right after the blatant offsides by the Packers. Aaron Rodgers does his third down hard count.
Yeah.
Guy jumps in the neutral zone. It's pretty clear offsides. Rodgers didn't treat it completely like a free play, but he thought he had a free play. It wasn't like, oh, free play, let's just heave it for a touchdown. He tried to complete a pass over the middle. It gets broken up, and then everybody's like, all right, where's the flag? All the way to the point where the refs huddled.
Yeah.
And talked about this. This is where the procedural stuff of the NFL was not great.
This is what Chris was driving at late in the broadcast, where he's like, what is the difference between, you have to challenge this to make it right, and what were they calling it, replay assist, which I think is just their term now for New York got on the phone.
Which I think is fine. Like, I want to talk about that play in a second. But this particular one, the whole world saw the Packers jump off sides. Now, listen, the previous driver, a couple plays earlier, Broderick Jones had a blatant false start that they also missed, right? He left
really badly.
So the Steelers got away with one. Now the Packers are about to get away with one. So they jump off sides. Rodgers, incomplete on third down. And then the refs huddle about this play. And I'm just curious. Now, the ACC has started to mic up the reviews, at least. They've started to mic up the reviews. I am fascinated by what this discussion would be. Because if New York could phone in and be like, guys, you missed an offsides. If they could just phone up and get that.
Or even if they can just huddle and look at the TV that everyone else is watching now. This is the crazy thing about NFL officiating is previously it's like, no, you can't use the replay to like get it right. You have to live by your own idiot call. Like what? Why? That's just dumb.
So they huddled, and I'm curious what they're like, hey, we missed the offsides, but procedurally, we can't just go back and say, guys, we've discovered new information. We missed an offsides call, offsides on the defense, first down, replay the down. So it ended up, it was the turning point in the game. I don't think it was the only thing because the Packers offense was just unstoppable after that point. But it was the turning point in the game because plays later was the 59-yarder to Tucker Kraft, and the Packers scored like 3 straight touchdowns, and it was they were off to the races. So it was a huge call at that time. If we jump ahead to the final touchdown, it's kind of Packers are down 2 scores, 16 points. They needed a touchdown and two-point conversions to even stay in this game. Rodgers heaves one up to Roman Wilson, makes the catch, steps 3 times, and then it gets broken up. And they had no timeouts, the Steelers, and a little over 2 minutes left in the game. So if this gets called incomplete, it's like game over. And then replay assist comes in and is like, no, that's a touchdown. We've seen replay assist step in these last couple of years and basically say, we could see this clear as day. You missed it. We're fixing it.
I don't even know what replay assist is. I think that's
New York.
I think that's just a broad term for we are using TV. I don't even think it's necessarily New York. I think most of the time it is, but I think there's
it might be in the stadium.
Right.
Either
I think
way,
that's also we just saw a replay that says we got this wrong.
We're just legitimately overruling the call. Now, replay assist can work on this incomplete touchdown call, no call, but it can't work on the offsides or the false start apparently, right? So it can only work for certain things. And Chris brings up a great point, which is it used to be like the Steelers have no timeouts. It used to be like, sorry guys, you don't have any challenges, you're screwed.
Right.
But in this case, it was like, no, we just stepped in and you missed the call. And like, I think we're all good with it being right. Right? I think we're good with it being right. And they got it right. Roman Wilson caught the ball, controlled it, took 3 steps, and then lost it. That should have been a touchdown, and it was. Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Yeah, the problem, as it always is with the NFL, is that they have this obsession with what's the opposite of transparency? Opacity. They're like, they do not want in any way, shape, or form you to have any idea how they are coming to conclusions.
Let's go to the pool report and hear them BS their way through.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like we're not going to say anything. Keep stum, and then afterwards we'll feed some crap to one reporter. Not even all of them. One guy will get the official party line, and then we'll move on. Other sports, as you said, the ACC, other sports, rugby, even refs in soccer, they're starting to have they're miking those guys up as well. Like other sports are quite clearly seeing there is a virtue and a power to showing you what the decision-making process is because, and in particular, again, in this world where the NBA's, betting scandal, NFL's hip deep with every gambling company, the more you can make it obvious that this is not crooked, the better you are going to be. To the point where in, Premier League soccer, they have put out audio of the VAR, the video assistant replay or whatever it's called, basically because a decision was so bad, they had to prove that this was not corrupt. Like, no, it's okay. We just screwed this up through basic idiocy. It wasn't crooked, right? They put out audio of how they screwed up the decision to prove that it wasn't crooked. Whereas the NFL is just like, nah, trust us. You're good.
The part of the problem with yesterday's games was the Jalen Hurts fumble, the Packers offsides, and let's just say the Steelers false start for being fair here to both sides. And then let's say the Rodgers to Roman Wilson touchdown. The first 2 were procedure things. The fact that everything you explained about forward progress is done, we can't call a fumble. Like if we got to be a fly on the wall to that discussion,
right,
it would have been like, hey, we know we fumbled, we screwed this one up, but letter of the law, we can't overturn this.
That's the thing.
It's the same thing about the offsides. Like we're screwed. We can't. We know it's wrong, but we can't fix it because there's red tape essentially not allowing us to. But to the NFL's credit, the last one being called a touchdown, despite the Steelers not having any challenges or timeouts, was good, right? They got the call right because they've added this new procedure, which was replay assist over the last 2 years, which fixed it. Whereas in the past, it would be like, sorry, guys, we don't have a mechanism to overturn this thing because the Steelers are out of timeouts. They got it right. So I think they need more procedural stuff.
They need more transparency. They just need to explain what's happening and how they're trying to make the call right. I mean, I saw a bunch of people on Twitter yesterday that were calling out the line judge by name in that Giants-Eagles game. And I specifically didn't do that because they were like, this guy made these 4 calls, right? The insinuation was he's either an absolute moron or he's crooked, right? And it's time to investigate him the way we investigate everybody else. And it's like, if you actually knew how that call was arrived at, now it's still bad, right? I'm still saying he made a mistake deciding forward progress is done. But the point is, I think most people do not know that play is over the very second he decides in his brain forward progress is halted. Most people think that play is still live until the whistle blows. And that's not the case. And all it would take is for them coming on the mic saying, as soon as the official determined forward progress to stop, the play is over, regardless of when you heard a whistle, and that's not a reviewable play. Like literally the conversation they had with Dayball on the sideline. This is what they told him, I'm sure. But nobody in public knows that. The announcers don't know that because it's such an esoteric rule. We're in this world where you just have to hear nothing and assume, well, either this guy's an absolute idiot or he's fixing the game, it's rigged. Simply putting that explanation out there would be beneficial.
I agree. I have some other takeaways from this game.
I wanted to credit multiple defensive players on the Packers who kind of kept them in this game until the offense caught fire. Carrington Valentine saves a touchdown with a pass breakup in the first half. That ended up in a 4-point play because they scored a field goal, I think, in the next play.
On DK.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Breaks that up in the end zone. Dime, by the way. Like literally landed in DK's hands, and then Valentine breaks it up. Evan Williams saved one on the next drive as well. They had more plays after that, but again, that ended up being a field goal drive. That's another 4-point play if you want to give them that. I mean, that's 8 points that individual Packers defensive backs saved from the scoreline in the first half, which was getting away from them. So their defense really kept them in the game until the offense went nuts.
The other plays that I wanted to highlight, beginning of the fourth, so the Packers finish their drive, go to break, they come out of the fourth quarter, they score in the first play of the fourth quarter, they're up 22-19, still a one-score game. Steelers come back out, and the very first play of the drive, Aaron Rodgers gets sacked. And I know it was Micah Parsons. And Micah Parsons, earlier in the game, created the pressure that forced Rodgers to step up into Rashawn Gary's sack. Gary got the full credit for the sack, but it was Micah Parsons that set it all up. You know, we're a context people here. Here's my context for the Rodgers sack at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Micah Parsons runs through a triple team, and everybody's like, great rush by Micah Parsons, which it was. Going back to the Myles Garrett example that we used earlier on the show. The rush itself was outstanding. The fact that it became a 10-yard loss for the Steelers in a 3-point game in the fourth quarter where you're trying to keep up now with this Packers offense that's starting to get hot, just an absolute drive killer for the Steelers. And I think it's on Rodgers, man. I think he's got a check down. He's got to, on 1st and 10, in a 3-point comeback attempt, he's got to make a better decision. And then they're in 2nd and long, and then he's just dinking and dunking on the next 2 plays, and you punt and you give the ball back to the Packers, and they score and they go up 10. And I just think that was an absolute drive killer. And I pick on Rodgers a little bit in these situations because I think historically, compared to other, I know he's in his 40s and he's great for a 40-year-old, 41, whatever he is. He's great for that age. But historically, Rodgers compared to the greats that he gets compared to, Brady, Manning, Mahomes, all of those guys are so much better than Rodgers in fourth quarter comeback situations and situational football, and just their record in fourth quarter comeback attempts is night and day compared to Rodgers. And I think this particular play is an example. I highlighted a lot of these last year where he takes what those guys did better is take shots when they're supposed to, take checks downs when they're supposed to, avoid sacks when they're supposed to, and Rodgers seemingly does the opposite more often than the other elite quarterbacks. And this was a perfect example where he could have either buried it or taken a little check down for 2 yards, stayed on schedule, and they go 3 and out, they punt, Packers score again, they go up 29-19, and the first 2 drives for the Steelers in the fourth quarter, they get negative 12 yards. And that was the game. Steelers defense was awful from that point on. They can't cover the middle of the field still. They still look at each other with palms up after every play. Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen yell at each other after every play.
That is fascinating.
There's massive miscommunications. The Steelers are maddening to watch because you know they have good pass rushers. You know they have good blitz schemes. You know they have good personnel on the back end for the most part at corner, and they still can't stop anybody. And they never. It's just never working together. That's true. But I really thought that Rodgers taking that sack and the fact that the offense disappeared until they were down 16, and then they convert a 4th down and get the Roman Wilson touchdown. It's like Rodgers, the final stat line looks pretty good, and he made some throws when they were down 2 scores, but when they were down 1 score, they did nothing. And I think that was the difference in the game where Rodgers had to do what he did last week. He did it well last week. Keep coming back and keep up with the defense blowing it. he was unable to keep up with Jordan Love and the Packers offense in this one.
Yeah. I also wanted to give shout out to Christian Watson, who came back, obviously, off his knee injury. Yeah. Number one, made a significant difference in terms of like he was on the end of a couple of those Jordan Love plays that were the one where I think he got it over a guy and dropped it into Christian Watson's hands. That I think I'm a lot more willing to give him credit for than the Tucker Kraft thing. That I think was a good play.
That was a good play.
That was well judged.
That was a good play.
But it was Watson on the end of that. He made a couple of plays where he was on the end of it. I do think he brings something different to this offense that even every other wide receiver in that absurdly deep group does not have. That unique blend of size, strength, vertical ability. He also was blocking his ass off for a guy that's just come back off a knee injury. I mean, he sprung Josh Jacobs late in the game, but he was blocking hard immediately from that game. That's a sort of statement for a guy who's working his way back off a knee injury that's supposed to be the sort of, the flashy, vertical, big receiving threat who's getting, in dirty in the trenches, making plays for other people.
Way back when we were doing our most important non-QB show this offseason, I think I highlighted Christian Watson, and it's because, 4.3 with speed. 4.3 with size. That is something that they don't have, and that does stretch the field, and it makes the Packers that much more difficult to defend. And for whatever you want to say about like the evaluation of Jordan Love and whether or not the throw was good or not, the fact that he has the trust that he has in Tucker Kraft, in Christian Watson on those plays down the field, that was a huge difference in the game. Because again, on the other side, when Rodgers heaved up a couple, but when they needed some of those big plays, he might check it down. Love was aggressive, took chances, and the Packers receivers made those plays down the field. That's why Love threw for 360 and 3 scores.
All the focus is going to be on Rodgers because he's Rodgers. The Steelers have the most expensive defense in the NFL, and it got lit up for 450 yards by this Green Bay team.
Awful.
And Green Bay's defense made way more plays, whether it's the pass breakups I talked about, whether it's their pass rush, and that's supposed to be the strength of Pittsburgh. Whatever about the back seven, we're expecting this front four, front 5, 6, 7, however many people you want to throw in there in terms of capable pass rushers. We're expecting that group to be terrorizing opposing quarterbacks every single week. And, it got some against the Packers, but it didn't. Green Bay's was more impactful.
I'll bring it up right now just because I do I do Pittsburgh radio every week. Pony was on with Pony the other day.
Is he?
He's this week.
What's the plan?
This week.
For the nipples.
Nipples getting pierced this week for that Bengals game.
What are the stipulations?
The Steelers have not won a game since he declared he would pierce his nipples.
True.
Yeah.
But is he having anesthetic? Did he back away from that? Or
I don't know. I don't know if he was. I feel like I'd be willing to concede that. That doesn't really matter. I think he was like maybe a little mad at me because I kept retweeting it.
Yeah. Look.
Because he was like, did a lot of people in Cincinnati talk about it? I said, yeah, a lot of people in Cincinnati picked up your brash statements.
It seemed to get traction once it became apparent the game was close.
But the fact that I may have quote tweeted it 5 to 6 times, I don't know if he was like a little upset that it. Because it goes out there, it's out there enough that you have to do it.
Yeah. I feel like once you put that in, once you have tempted that level of fate, and it turns out that fate's just going to slap you in the face, that's on you. You can't complain that somebody amplified that. Look, you didn't want it out there. You shouldn't have tweeted it.
It's funny because it's not even his worst take. He had a Kenny Pickett, Joe Montana.
It's not even his worst take. It's going to cost him his own nipples, and it's not his worst take.
I'll bring this up. I want to have a quick Mike Tomlin conversation.
Uh-oh.
Because I've generally defended Tomlin and said the guy's had uneven quarterback play for the last few years. It's a miracle to get his team.
And just to level set, they are currently 4-3.
They're currently 4-3.
So even, with what is to be said about to come, this team still has a winning record. And look, I'm first place in the division.
Lukewarm take guy here. It's week 8, right? Anything can happen in the next 9 weeks of this 10 weeks of the season. We have 18 weeks, right? Anything can happen, of course. But I'm starting to lean into this idea that Mike Tomlin, he might just be calibrated to 9-8. He might just be the types of games that Mike Tomlin seems to lead with the Steelers. I'll bring this up too. Like, why does the Steelers defense? Why Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, who had a good defense, and then they suddenly didn't have a good defense. The Steelers were supposed to have a good defense, and they did last year for the most part until the playoffs. But now they suddenly don't have a good defense. Like, is this a Rodgers thing? Is this the way they practice? Or what is this? But Tomlin seems to be 9-8 regardless. Whether you give me Duck Hodges, Aaron Rodgers, or Kenny Pickett, we're going 9-8, and that's what we are. And that includes like we're gonna lose games that we should win. We're going to surprise you with this one game, maybe against a great Baltimore team and beat them. We're going to win a game with 6 field goals like they did last. They were on their way to doing that. They were going to win with all field goals in this game at one point. Is there too much consistency with Tomlin, including, by the way, DK Metcalf is picking up personal fouls. They had 2 personal fouls on plays that extended drives. Or
it was a very chippy game, actually.
It was. But, like, is that another feature and not a bug, right? George Pickens is like a model citizen right now in Dallas. It's gone both ways. Deontay Johnson ran himself out of the league when he left Pittsburgh. But now DK's picking up. He's poking people in the eye and everything. Like, what's going on? Why are they seemingly set up to be just over 500? And then when they get into the playoffs, they get whooped. And that's been...
Yeah. I mean, look.
Ultimately, my point is, I've generally defended Tomlin because he's had less than stellar quarterback play, and who can overcome that as a head coach? On the other hand, I feel like there is an incredible amount of consistency in Tomlin's teams, both good and bad, that have them landing as 9-10 win teams at best right now in today's NFL. And I don't know if that's what Pittsburgh wants or if they should be looking for better.
Yeah, I mean, several things can be true at the same time. I think lacking a quarterback means you're not going to win in the playoffs. Like, you're going to get to the playoffs, you're going to go up against elite quarterbacks.
It's the way it happens. His defense gets smoked.
Right, but you cannot contend without a decent quarterback in the NFL. So it makes sense that these teams just completely run off the cliff once they hit the postseason. I think generally Mike Tomlin sets an extremely high baseline for a football team. Like, he's a very old school, I don't want to say dinosaur, but he's a classic old school football coach. And there's some merit to a lot of the things they did. That's why it was successful back in the day. Like, the fact that their training camps are more intense and physical than other teams. Like, I think he sets a very high baseline by getting a football team together in a good way, well coached in those terms. Now, there's also a bunch of new age stuff that I think he's pretty bad at. Like, Ben Baldwin has this sort of running tally every week of, win probability lost by coaching scared on 4th down is how he terms it, right? Essentially kicking when you should be going for it based off the analytics, quote unquote. The Steelers are by far and away the worst team in the NFL at that this season. They have lost a staggering amount of win percentage by kicking in go situations, right? That makes a difference. So on the one hand, you got this coach who's raising the floor to this really high baseline because he's a good, fundamental, old school football coach. And then you've got this new world now where everyone needs to understand the margins, the little percentages here or there that happen during the course of a football game. And Tomlin wants no part of any of that. He's just
consistently
flying
losing
by the seat of his pants, going on the fields because that's the way he does it. And so they're leaving all this low-hanging fruit just sitting there at the bottom, waiting to be picked up that nobody's touching, and everyone else is grabbing it, and you're not. So I think that explains a lot of it, that they can't be that bad because he's a good football coach, but they might not be able to be elite because he's not taking advantage of all this crap that everyone else is.
Yeah. So I think it's just a fair discussion. Like, I'm not calling for anything, but I think Steelers fans have been debating this for a while, and it comes down to that. Like, there's some things he's really good at. I think the raised floor makes a lot of sense. They're still 4-3. They have plenty of 10 games left. We'll see, but it's a difficult schedule.
I mean,
and they just feel like a 9-8 team.
Look,
and
there's a reason.
I'm shocked at how bad the defense is.
Yes,
every
that's
week.
A big thing. There's a reason that Vegas never bought into them being a runaway favorite for this division, right? And I assume, based off the results, Baltimore will jump back into being favored for the division, even though they're multiple games back still. So there's a couple of ways this season can still go for Pittsburgh. If they fail and they end up not making the playoffs with the start that they had and the start that Baltimore had, and the whole thing unravels, I think there's a fairly strong argument that you could move on from Mike Tomlin and it would be perfectly reasonable, even in a world where you're like, he's even if they go 9 and even if they get 9 wins and he doesn't have a losing season again, I think there's still justification that, like, okay, now we can do it. Or they make the playoffs, they win the division, say, they hold off Baltimore, they make the playoffs, and they get shellacked again once they get there. And it's like, I think you can still make the argument now that whatever the limitations are within this Mike Tomlin dynamic, they exist and they're not changing. So
it's
maybe we can just go in a different direction, even understanding that there's like a 50% chance we're worse because of it.
It would be the same thing as the Cowboys discussion. It's like you're a 12-win team that gets waxed in the playoffs. That's a worthy conversation of it's so consistent. Do we want something better? Like it's a very high. The Cowboys winning 12 games year after year with Mike McCarthy, then losing in the playoffs. That's a really high floor, but you're looking for more, right? So we used to have that conversation. So they're going to play the Colts. They're scheduled. They've got the Colts and Chargers the next 2 weeks. Still have to play the Ravens twice, the Bills, and the Lions, just amongst other teams. So it's not easy for Pittsburgh here going forward.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?